Hey, what's up? It's Taclys, and today we're doing Game of the Year awards. Now, this is something that I've been thinking about really hard for the past, few months, and I have finally come to my decision on what my top 5 games are for the year. Now, a couple preliminary things. First, I'm not going to be including anything on the list that was a re-release or a redux or like Metro or GTA 5 or something like that. Secondly, I have to have actually played the game for me to put it on this list. So because of that, unfortunately, Far Cry 4 and Dragon Age Inquisition are not on the list because I haven't played either one of those yet. However, I do have 5 games that I really enjoyed and had a lot of fun with, and I've put them in order, even though that order was painstaking at times, and I wasn't sure what I was going to go with until right here at the end. So, yeah, let's get into it. Really quickly, my honorable mentions are Titanfall for really awesome first-person shooter multiplayer, Super Smash Bros. For being a really good platform fighting game, and for Project Spark, I don't really consider it a huge amount of a game, more of a program, but considering my channel is kind of dedicated to it, it absolutely deserves a honorable mention. So let's get into the actual list. At number 5, we have Mario Kart 8. This awesome little Nintendo racer is just loads of fun. The map's really well done. The controls are good. I was a Mario Kart 64 fan. I played that game obsessively back in the day. I just never got into the Wii Mario Kart, so I was glad to see that the Wii U Mario Kart was so much fun. The maps were great. The power-ups were really well balanced. It was more of a skill-based Mario Kart than the Wii version was, which I liked a lot. Plus, I think it's the only game on this list that has local multiplayer. So that's really good. I miss local multiplayer in games these days. Too many of them are either single player or online multiplayer only. So good to have a 4-player local game on the list.
Resistance crushed beneath an iron boot.
At our number 4 spot is Wolfenstein. This game was a bit of a surprise to me. I mostly picked it up in the middle of the summer because there was nothing to play except the Destiny beta, and I had bought Sniper Elite 3 earlier, and that game was a bit of a disappointment. So I picked this up, just wanted something fun. Besides, it was a Bethesda game, so it couldn't be that bad. And that game really surprised me. It had a really good story. The characters were relatable and well fleshed out. It was cool to see that there were 2 different stories if you chose to save one character or the other character at the beginning. They're pretty much the same story, but you got to have different dialogue and different interaction and a few different choices, so that was really fun. The gunplay itself was awesome and overpowered and ridiculous, and dual-wielding 2 auto shotguns is a gore fest, and that's tons of fun. Plus, the final boss of the game was really fun. If it was maybe a little more simple than I would have liked, but hey, it was still really fun. Yeah, there's not a lot bad I have to say about this game, except that I miss that it has multiplayer, but I also understand why it doesn't. It's not really the multiplayer type of game. So, Wolfenstein New Order, really fun game. Definitely worth checking out. At number 3, and before I get to number 3 and number 2, I'd like to say that I agonized over the order of these for weeks. They're both awesome games, they both have strengths and weaknesses in different places, but overall, I had to put Shadow of Mordor at number 3.
Yes. Moves like a ghost. Fights like a devil.
Now, mind you, number 2 and number 3, I'm splitting hairs. They were super close. So, but number 3 is Shadow of Mordor. I think it was a surprise to everyone that a Lord of the Rings game could be so excellent, but between top-notch graphics and friggin' crazy combat system that took its time to get fleshed out, but that way you could really learn it really well. But lots of combat options, and of course the fantastic Nemesis system, which I have probably spent 70-ish hours just rummaging around in the Nemesis system. I downloaded the game and it let me play the game while it was still downloading with the full Nemesis system. However, it didn't let me play much of the campaign, so I probably spent the first 10 hours of the game just rummaging around in the Nemesis system, so that was really fun. The things that held Shadow of Mordor back from being second place were the fact that it had no multiplayer, the final boss was a quick time event, and that the story was a little bit weaker. The story wasn't bad, it's just not as good as, say, Wolfenstein or my second place on the list. But the graphics were super pretty, and the combat is probably the funnest on the entire list, or at least the most diverse and challenging. So, number 3 is Shadow of Mordor.
I heard stories, man, that like nothing you ever seen before.
At number 2, and yes, I chose the Ubisoft game, is Watch Dogs. This game is super fun. It's just, I love everything about this game. Part of the reason this made the list too is that an open world vigilante hacker game is like the perfect game for me. Like, if you asked me 5 years ago what would be the perfect game, vigilante hacker open world game may have actually made number 1. So that was kind of a big deal to me. The graphics were pretty, maybe not as pretty as Shadow of Mordor, but they got the rain physics down pat. In fact, I'm not aware of a game that does the rain better. So the graphics were great. The story was really good, despite what people say. I think the story was great. I actually named my cat after Clara, the female, mostly protagonist in the story. I also named her partially after Clara Oswald from Doctor Who, but whatever. The open world was really fun and fairly detailed and expansive. It's no Grand Theft Auto, but it wasn't intending to be, especially since there's no flying vehicles. I think that the game just did a great job, and the reasons it pulled ahead of Shadow of Mordor was because it had a multiplayer. While not the most fleshed out multiplayer, it definitely had multiplayer. And the story was better, and the Bad Blood DLC blew me away. That DLC was fantastic. The story in it was awesome. You got to see T-Bone doing sweet stuff and being cool, and you got to drive a remote control explosive RC car around. So that's the reasons it pulled ahead. But those two, Shadow of Mordor and Watch Dogs, I flip-flopped in those two hard for weeks and weeks and weeks. And number 1, this game wasn't even really in question for me for number 1, is Sunset Overdrive.
Together we'll take Bisco down. Or we won't, but we'll get some wicked respawn animations.
Oh my gosh, I could go into this game for so long on how fun it is and how great it is and all that. I mean, my complaints about this game are so minor. They're insignificant. I wish that there were a few more normal-ish clothing options. I wish, that's about it. Really, there's not much about the game I don't like. The graphics are really pretty, if stylized, but very pretty. Character customization's top-notch. The story, if untraditional, is still a ball to play with, and I think the story's still better than Shadow of Mordor. The traversal, top-notch. The open world's really fun, and it's just the whole game's awesome. It's the only game that plays like the trailer, and the final boss was friggin' fantastic. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it was fantastic. So those are my games of the year. Really, they're all good games, and if you don't agree with the order of these games, that's perfectly fine. This is my opinion. You can have yours, just don't leave angry comments if I didn't include the game that you thought was the best. For obvious reasons, no PlayStation games made the list because I don't own a PlayStation 4. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this Game of the Year list, and I put a lot of work into thinking about which games should make the list. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any comments about the games I listed here, or heck, what order would you put the games in, and what would your Game of the Year list be? You could do 5 games, you could do 10 games, whatever. Just leave it in the comments below, because we're nearing the end of the year, and there's no more big games coming out for the rest of the year. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys later.
Who is this hero? Me! Not me? Oh, you!